Good day, YouTubers. My name is Merlin. I'm a trapper here in Timmins, Ontario. I'm going to show you how I clean skin beaver. First step, I give him a good brushing when he's on the bench here. Some people like a cradle. This is the way that I was taught. It's worked out for me so far, so I give him a half-fast brushing. It's a large beaver. Hopefully the camera picks this up. I start by cutting the paws off, usually at the first knuckle, right behind the pad. I wring them and just give them a twist. Wring them. Give them a twist. The back ones, I bend back towards the body, cut the Achilles tendon, wring it right where the fur is, and then give it a twist. Both of them. Next, I line them up on the board or on the bench. Try and keep everything nice and straight. I use the back of a utility knife and I draw a line from the middle of his lip all the way down to his vent, and then on the other side of his vent to his tail. See that? You can see I got a line all the way down here, all the way down to his vent, and then below his tail. I use a hook blade, just a regular carpenter's hook blade. I start at the lips, split the lip, and I just follow that line all the way down to the vent. Make sure he's opened up. Then I extend the line on the other side of the tail, or from the vent to the tail. And then I cut around the vent. Should go change the blade. Should go. And my last step is I cut all the way around the tail. Some people like to cut it off. I like having a handle for it on the animal when I'm done. So as you can see, he's split wide open. All the way from lips to tail. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the left hand side at the lip with my good knife here. I don't know if you guys will be able to get this. easier if I had a cameraman. So then I grab the lip and I pull it, and then I just start opening them up. I do 2 or 3 inches like this. You can see where the skin is and where the meat starts. Like I say, I don't dirty skin, I'm a clean skinner. Just the way I was taught. Good idea to keep your knife clean and free of grease and hair, otherwise it just glides. When you're doing this method, you want to watch the back of your knife that you don't get too far ahead of yourself here and end up slicing into the hide behind you. If your edges aren't clean, it's no big deal, it scrapes off easy. It's just fat after all. And you can see he's opening up. Vent area here. And then finally his tail area. This is a extra large beaver. As I progress, I try to take as much muscle off the tail that I can and around the shoulder. I turn the whole bench sideways. Make sure you're still in focus here. And then I just start skinning him all the way around to his back, all the way around to his spine. Pull, cut, pull, cut, pull, cut. Work my way all the way up to his front legs. And just like when you're fleshing otter and whatnot, you try to keep everything symmetrical, everything even. You don't want to be at the spine on this end and still on the front foot. So I just keep working the hide. A lot of people dirty skin. I've never learned to dirty skin, and I should look into it. Again, this is just the way I was taught. I've been skinning this way for 20 years, so always want to pay attention to the back of your knife. I'm going to free up the front leg here first. I don't like touching bone with my good knives. So the whole purpose of this bench, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's a 2x4 right here. I forget the exact dimensions. I think it's 32 by 15 or 16 wide and 15 or 16 high. 2x4s on edge. I built this 15 years ago. It's just a piece of chipboard and a 2x4. Once you get the leg starting to come out here, you can use it as a pulling part. I pull the hide back over it, back over the 2x4, and then just work the leg out. Most of it's going to get trimmed off. And I just keep pulling until the leg comes free. So that's the front leg. Keep your hide tight. Front shoulder area, in and around the jowls. The more I can take off while I'm skinning, the better. Makes it easier to stretch afterwards. Around the head. Get a little tight up there, so now I'll move back here and I'll do the same thing to the back leg. They're all freed up. Careful not to get too close to the hide and expose any roots. And there I just put my 2 fingers on the bone, and then I just curl my hand. And the backbone pops out. I don't know if you can see that. And then again, just keep working all the way around the animal. There's going to be some tendons and whatnot on the back legs. If those can stay on the hide, the better. Or on the hide on the carcass. Get this tail area here rolling. People use cradles. I've used cradles before too. As I say, I've tried to dirty skin. That's what I've tried. My intentions were to dirty skin, but I'm just so used to clean skinning that it doesn't feel natural. All the way up to the head here. And I work around the skull till I get to the ear. The ears exposed there. So I'll do a little more around the back here and try and get to at least the spine. Once you get back around the spine, the meat has a tendency of sticking. I guess it's because there's no fat on the back. But even if it does stick to the hide, it's no big deal. It's easy to scrape off afterwards. You don't want to leave too much. When I'm cutting at, I'm going to say 20-degree angle, 30-degree angle, somewhere in there. Just keep the hide tight, and half the time, if your knife is really sharp, you don't even have to cut. You just kind of push, and it'll release. This is a big, healthy beaver. Here I'm about to just past the spine on this side, so I'm going to flip them. I'm going to do the same thing. I'll start at the tail this time, and I'll just start opening them up all the way to the lips. The vent area is a little on the cumbersome side. Again, I'm just going to open them up 3 inches or so. Nice white belly fat. So I'm pulling. You can see the hides right here, and this is where the fat starts. And I'm just trimming that back to get started. Again, I don't think there's a wrong way of skinning it. Well, I shouldn't say that. You do whichever's comfortable to you. But there is a lot of new guys coming in, so I figured I'd make a video on just how I do my beaver. There's all kinds of resources on YouTube. I'm a big fan of Dave Vandermeer, Trapping World. Lately I've been watching a lot of Trapper Joe as well. Of course, Andrew of Trapping NWT. I got them pretty well started. Make sure you guys are still in focus. Keep the chair moving. And again, I just, now that he's open, I just guide my knife down. Keep cutting the fat. Just keep working it along. If I happen to have left too much on one area, I'll go back over it. I try to keep as much meat on the carcass as I can. The less scraping I have to do, the better. Getting towards his back leg here. It is getting a little tight, so I'll work out the front leg. Switch knives here in a second. Knife go. There it is. A little bit of fat around the legs is no big deal. I kind of focus on the tail and I focus on the front shoulder. On these large ones, that's the most difficult part to scrape. On these big guys too, you should really watch for scars, scar tissue. Front leg exposed. Working back here on the back one. This guy, December 12th, I believe. I'm not even sure what day it is today. I picked him up on Tuesday, and today's Thursday anyways. So he's nicely fresh caught. It was through the ice, so he's nicely thickened up. Lots of fat on him. Should be nice to see. I have caught 2 beaver in my career that when I opened them up they were this color. They were just blood red, not an ounce of fat on them. Hardest animals to scrape in my life. And I was told afterwards I shouldn't even bother with them. I have a tendency of doing the first side maybe even a little further than the spine. Just means the less I have to do when I skinning out the other half of them. There's an old scar there. Again, don't know if the camera can pick it up. I'll spread the hide out afterwards, we'll have a look. Big chunk of fat here, big chunk of meat. If you leave a little extra on, it's not the end of the world. It's easy to take off with a knife or a scraper. When I scrape my beaver, I just use an ordinary paint scraper with the corners ground off. A couple of bucks at the hardware store as compared to $200 for the actual beaver scraper. Now I'm right behind the base of the skull. Just going to finish freeing up and around here, the top of the head. I'm going to go to the first ear. I'm going to go to the ear on this side of his head. And then that's that. I'm going to flip him around here. I'll see if I can give you guys a better vantage point when I take the casters out. As for the casters, I grab right in between the two. I go right on up, just inside the sack. So I made a slice in line with his jaw. And then I grab one side and I just skin it out. I avoid the scent glands. I keep those to make my own scent. So there's one. And the other one here. I'll give you some. This one's another big male. I just did one before I turned the camera on. So there, I made a slice up, well, parallel with his pee-pee here. I make one slice up, I pull it up, and then I skin out in and around the area that's got the caster covered. So I can just flip that back, I can flip this one back, I can get them out of that white meaty sack. Please keep in mind I'm doing this one-handed. So there's one. Again, I don't want all this red meat on here. So the more you can leave on the carcass, the better. Once you got the scent glands pulled out, I've done it one or two ways. Either I cut it off right here and right here, and then I just twist them and I put them up on a coat hanger. Or the other way I've seen it, and again it's a credit to, I'm not sure who it was on YouTube, you tie them off back here and then you slice them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Piece of string, and then tie them off back here, just above them. And I'm going to cut it off right behind the string. And there's your caster. That goes up to dry. And again, myself personally, this is a big male. He's got a huge scent gland on him, oil gland. I use the oil to make my own scent. It's nothing fancy. It's a combination of usually beaver, kitten, caster, little wee casters you're not going to get anything for, and scent glands. I take the scent glands out of every beaver I do, and I just mix it together, and I use that for scent for everything, whether it be marten, lynx, fisher, even other beaver. I'll use that for scent traps for beaver. Just checking the camera angle here. Now that we've skinned around to the ears on either side, the casters out of them. Now I flip them bellied side down on the bench. Pull the hide up over it, rest it on my knee, and then I just skin out the head. Just like every other animal. Don't have to worry about the bone jaw, obviously, because it's split. The eyes, you want to kind of cut right into the corner of the eye. Break the cartilage loose. And then work your way all the way up the nose. And the snout. And once the nose is exposed, just cut straight on down. See if I can make some room here. And there is a clean-skinned beaver. Well, the way I do it anyways. That scar I had mentioned is right here. These little bits of fat will trim off just by scraping. I just use a paint scraper. I grind the corners off. It's reversible, and I forget what a replacement blade is. It's like $4. So that's all I use when I board them. There's a few that are done already. The larger hides, I sew the legs up. The smaller hides, medium, large, I nail them, and the kittens I don't even bother sewing them. It's all a time ratio. Anyways, if I think of it, I'll try and take a little video of when I'm stretching them as well. Take care. So this is the beaver we just skinned. What I do is I grab them by the nose here and the tail, and I stretch them along the board, and then when I release him, whatever line he falls on, I half it so he come to the second line at the nose and the third line at the tail, so I'm in 2.5. 1, 2.5, and he's a little bit understretched. It's not bad though. You can use the lips and these wings back here on his tail as take-ups. So if you want the hide a little tighter, you pull it a little tighter. If you want it looser, you can back it off. As you can see, I start by putting 2 nails on the nose. I have a line drawn in the center of the board, widthwise and lengthwise. So when I tack them open, I make sure there's at least 2 nails, one on either side, at the half mark, and I make sure as best I can that he's centered. So I put one in the center of his tail and I put it on the mark and then just pull the wings out. Then I add a few nails in between just to tack them open. Next I'm going to take my knife and I split the nose right down in the cartilage. After that, I take my scraper and I just do all the edges here. So I just scrape all the fat off the edges, and I do half at a time. So I'll start with the top half, and I just scrape back all the whatever I missed when I opened them up. This will be done with the knife here, the lips. I'll take my knife, wherever I ended up with it. There it is. I just take my knife and I slice it all back. You can go through the whiskers. You're not keeping that anyways. And if you happen to be a little bit on the tight side when you stretch them, it'll help release them a little bit. So I slice that down. I'm going to clean up my edges. It's hard because I'm still holding on to the camera here. And then what I do, instead of halving my nails, I use the meaty part of the side of my hand, and I pull the hair all nice, and then I'll start nailing like this. One nail here, the next nail, the next nail, the next nail, the next nail. And I'll turn it back on once I have my edges cleaned up and half of it nailed. There. I don't know how well you guys can see that. It's only been a couple minutes since I turned the camera off the last time. I've got the shoulders cleaned up. Still a little bit of cartilage in the ears. And I've scraped about half of them so far. I don't have anything fancy. It's just on 2 sawhorses, and I got a nail holding my board there so that the board doesn't bugger off when I start scraping. My fancy dense paint scraper. Nails up. I scrape half of them. Another thing too is if he's slightly overstretched, by the time you split the nose, you can play with the tail portion and the lips and the nose area to give yourself some slack. But by the time you start scraping them, he loosens right up. So now that I got about half of them done, I'm going to clean my edges in the bottom half here. Try and get as much fat that I missed when I was skinning off. The reason why we clean our edges so well is if you leave fat on and you drive a nail through it, the fat adheres to the nail. And then when you go to pull the beaver off the board, if the nail catches, you end up with a ripped hide. I space my nails out 3/4 of an inch to an inch, good enough for my fingers to fit underneath. Because when I'm done, I raise them up off the board. Troublesome areas. Again, I just use my knife like a scraper. As I get close to the back nail, I'll remove the back nail and clean a lot of this up with the knife. The nails I'm using are 2-inch common. So I'm going to stop about this area. On this side I'll do the same to the other. This is the vent area. The height is thin, so if you happen to overstretch a little bit, chances are your nails are going to pull out in this area here. This guy's a little understretched. When I use my knife as a scraper, it's almost 90 degrees, 80 degrees, somewhere in there. That's about as far as I'm going to take it. I'm going to tighten this up just a hair. And then just down here, I'm going to slice all this fat and muscle off. I'm not going to go too crazy with it because it's not nailed, but I want it clean so that when I do put my nails in, I'm not going to be gripped by the fat and grease. These two little ends here are going to get cut off so you can scrape anything towards them. Now that my edges are clean, finish nailing them. Should have done it in elapsed time here. Just to compare. Now that he's totally nailed, I just scrape all the fat off him. This was back by his spine. Anything I left around the back legs. Gotta watch, there's a scar at his tail section here. Don't want to go too crazy around the scars. If you open them up, you're buggered. Probably going to end up blocking your view. Front and back legs, not so much the front, more the back. I knife them. I just scrape all the fat to the edge. Once it looks half decent, I just take and I cut a thin ring containing all the fat right off, and you're left with a nice clean edge. This is a large beaver. I'm going to sew up the legs, so I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's a nice white line. And what I'll do is I'll just thread my needle through that as I go around. I'll show you that in a minute. Need some more paper towel. Let's put the bucket outside. been cold up here in northern Ontario, -30 with wind chill. See, even if you leave this little bit of red on the spine, it'll scrape right off. The only thing with these scrapers, you got to keep them clean, otherwise they start to drift. As soon as it gets loaded up in fat and grease. Forgot about that scar. Good memory, but it's short. And then same thing with this back leg. Take my knife, bring all the fat right up to the top edge. Watch your fingers. There's all the fat and muscle. Right up the very top edge. Slice her off. Now if you wanted to soak that in scent, use that as bait, or I don't know if it would work for dirt holes. I don't dirt hole. Just a piece here. And that is just about a done beaver. So the next thing I'll do, make sure that you could probably use some more scraping down here. Just get rid of some of this fat and meat. Now this one's under stress, so you can see me, I'm pulling on the leg to tighten up the hide. You don't want to be using the knife on a loose hide. Alright people, so this is the finished product. I have trimmed the tail, sewed up the leg holes, and cut the nose piece off. I nicked him right beside the eye right here. Anyways. Good. rose them up off the board. And that's how I skin and stretch a beaver. Shout out to Dave. Here's the first wolf of the season. Doing the paws the way he instructed. Saved me a ton of time. Pin those open. Anyways. The first small female gray. I'm going to check tomorrow, and with any luck, some of her brothers, sisters, uncles, dad, mom, somebody else will be in the snare. Anyways, take care.